Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Do you know what it means to be a motherless daughter? Did you know you can have mother loss without mother death? Mother loss comes in many forms, and Motherless Daughters Ministry is here to help you navigate through your particular mother loss. While you are unique, you are definitely not alone. We have 20 years worth of pearls of wisdom to help you on your mother loss journey, and we are sharing all of these pearls with you through this very podcast, Nurturing Words, Voices of Experience, sponsored lovingly by Motherless Daughters Ministry.
Hello, I'm Gladys Bell, your host. Today, we have a discussion between two of our Motherless Daughters Ministry volunteers, Sarah Lynn Wells and Natalie Lundstrom. They discuss their experiences mothering as motherless daughters. We hope you will be encouraged by this heartfelt conversation as they discuss their struggles and support available with Motherless Daughters Ministry. If you enjoy our podcast, please give us a like and rating on the platform you use to listen to the podcasts. This helps our podcast reach other motherless daughters. You can also share on social media to help get the word out. If you are blessed by our ministry and would like to give back through a donation, please check our show notes for a link. As a nonprofit working to reach motherless daughters, we appreciate your support. Every donation helps make a difference in providing content for motherless daughters. Let's listen to the interview today with Sarah Lynn.
My name is Sarah
Natalie.
Lynn, and I will tell a little bit more about my story, but I want to introduce Natalie, who has joined us this evening. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me and organizing this. I am joining you from the heart of my home between the kitchen and the dining room in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm mothering 3 kids. My son is 15, my middle daughter is 12, and my youngest is 8. And I experienced mother loss. Both my mother-in-law and my mother lost to cancer. My mother-in-law was 8 years ago, my mom 3 years ago next month. And I also realized that part of my journey is I experienced the loss of my mother to cancer, but the first loss I experienced was she suffered a pretty traumatic brain injury when I was younger. And so being able to be connected to this ministry has helped me grieve some of that loss as well. So I got connected. I consider myself still pretty new to the ministry, but I joined to help serve on the board earlier this year. And so through that, I've been able to get to know Sarah and really enjoy this opportunity to learn and grow from her and serve by doing this connections group together. I recently did the Journey Retreat. It was a great experience. And so coming out of that, I was eager to go into the leadership training so that I could help provide support for other women. So excited to talk about what we're doing next month together.
Yeah, well, thank you, Natalie. Thank you for joining us. And as Natalie said, she and I will be leading a connections and conversation circle group that's focused on mothering without a mother. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but we just thought it would be really great for you to hear our story. So thank you, Natalie, for sharing yours as well. So as I said earlier, my name is Sarah Lynn. I am been with the ministry several years now. My story is I am a mom of 2 boys. They are 4 and almost 9. And I lost my mother 8.5 years ago. So my youngest was very little. So my journey of mothering without a mother started very early on. My mother and I were very close, and it's someone that I would go to for encouragement, advice. And, as you become a new mom, there's so many questions and so many things that you want to have. If you have a good relationship with your mother, you want to be able to talk to and learn from them and things that you may not have thought to ask them before you became a mother yourself. So my son was about 4 months old when my mother unexpectedly died. So it definitely had a huge impact on how the start of my motherhood journey went with that unexpected loss. So we both have very unique aspects to our story, Natalie, but I know there's a lot that we share in common too, just with trying to navigate this. We have kids around the same age, our younger ones, and just trying to figure out how to navigate this and how to deal without that nurturing and encouragement from a mother. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but something that comes up for me is just like the milestones and the celebrations, even like I can hear my mother's voice saying, don't be braggadocious, but there's some things that you could brag about with grandparents, like when they get their report card or they score their first goal at soccer, things like that it's like, oh, you want to call mom in the hard times and like the questions of how to mother, but even in those good celebrations too, just not to have that go to, that's definitely been a gap for me. How about you? What are some of the bigger challenges you experience?
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. There have been times, I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's like something happens that is good, not just necessarily something difficult, but something that is good. And it's like my hand just starts to reach for my phone. That is the person, like you said, you can't always, for some people that you may not want to tell every little detail like that, like you said, a report card or something. So having that, I would say that, and just also, like I kind of alluded to before, just having that encouragement, the kind of cheerleader who's cheering you on, encouraging you, or just even giving you advice. I feel like one thing that's been interesting for me is my oldest is getting to be, now he's in third grade. So as we're navigating elementary school and school, my mother was a teacher for almost 40 years. And there are so many times where I've had questions about how he's doing in school, or is he hitting certain milestones that he should be, or, obviously things that I could talk to his teacher about, but I just really feel that void a little bit of being able to talk to her about those things that she was really interested in or would have loved to discuss with me. That's when sometimes it really hits me hard in this stage.
Yeah. I mean, I also sometimes find myself grieving for their loss, that like to me, my grandmothers were amazing. And, for my kids to have this much of their childhood not having a grandma, that's so sad to me, especially as a person of faith. Like my grandma Norma was like a praying grandma, and it's something about a praying grandma it's hard to replace. So we carry our own grief, but as moms we carry a lot of the feelings of our children, and so there's a level of grief that I feel for them too that has to be processed.
Definitely. And everybody has such a different story. I'm sure there's some out there who have gone through this and they had to help their children navigate the grief of losing their grandparent. Perhaps someone is mothering without a mother because of an estrangement or distance in that way. So that's a different type of conversation that you have to have with your kids. But like you said, I got to see my mother as a grandmother to my niece and nephew, who are several years older. So I got to see how much she loved being a grandmother, loved my niece and nephew, and the special relationship they had. So yeah, I definitely grieve at times for my boys. They do have a good relationship with my mother-in-law, and it's nice to be able to see that relationship, but there's definitely a grief there of not being able to see that with my mom and what my expectations were of what that was going to be like. I think that's hard when you have high expectations and you wanted those things to happen. There's definitely a grief there of accepting that is not the reality that they will have.
Yeah. Earlier when we were talking, you were talking about your youngest doing soccer, and you go to the games and you see the grandparents show up, and there's a part of that it's like, there's these moments where the void just pops up on you that you don't expect, and just to be able to have community and space to make the time it takes to grieve. It's sometimes you can't prioritize it with all the responsibilities of mothering, and time doesn't stop, and the dishes pile up, and the laundry has to be done. And so, when we accumulate these moments where grief reminds us of the love. And so for me, I just know that I need the community and the space and time dedicated to really metabolize that and think about ways to really carry the memory forward in an honoring way. For me, it was a no-brainer to do this group next month because October was the month that I lost my mom. And so it just feels like a way to honor my story and also make meaning and hopefully hope for other women by just choosing to connect in this way. So
that's beautiful to be able to have that connection and way that you're continuing on. I know that's probably something a lot of other people, it's a challenge of mothering without a mother is, like I said, for some, it may be really difficult conversations on why their grandmother isn't part of their life, if it is through estrangement or having to set those kind of boundaries. But for those who have lost their mother through death, there are the challenges of trying to figure out how to keep the memory alive for their children, especially like in my case, one of mine was born after she passed away. One was so tiny, he doesn't remember. So I know for me, some of the things that I've tried to do every year on her birthday, I make a meal that she would make a lot. Fried chicken that she loved to make for church dinners and things like that. She loved orange juice cake. So every year I make that on her birthday. Just a little way to fill that connection and keep that day, that memory for the kids. And as I mentioned earlier, she was a teacher. She taught first grade for very long time. And so we have some of the books from her classroom. She loved to see children reading and have a love of literacy and books. And so seeing those books in my kids' hands always makes me smile and think of her. And that's a way that I can kind of share her memory and teach them about her, especially for busy little boys who maybe don't want to sit down and listen to a long story or look through pictures, but just trying to find little ways to say her name and keep her memory alive for the kids. I don't know, Natalie, if there are things that you found as well.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion.
You have a powerful story to tell. And I want you to know your story will resonate with so many in our listening community. Podcasts provide us with opportunities to connect with others, fostering a sense of personal connection through the power and intimacy of one's voice. They can provide an escape, a touch point with the world outside, and a sense of community, and not just for the listeners. If you would like to be featured as a nurturing voice of experience in one of our upcoming podcasts, please let us know. Visit motherlessdaughtersministry.com today.
Well, that's an important one you mentioned, is saying her name. In my extended family, we had this like accidental thing we've done and it stuck, but my mom's name was Vanessa. And so after she died, we changed her name from a noun to an adjective. And so when things that are reflective of who she was, we say that, is that necessary? And, for example, like Christmas was a big deal for Mom. She was over the top with decorating. And so like my sister was showing me her necessary decorations that she bought last year. So it just is like a little way to like throw her name in a way that is lighthearted, but it's important that we say their name aloud, because it's not like you're not thinking about them. So, it's just a little way to keep the memory. What was your mom's name?
My mom's name is Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Yeah. That's neat. Like you said, to have that. And it's nice to have family that you can talk to or people you can be around. I know where I am, I live in a different state than where I grew up. So sometimes I find, most of the people that I interact with on a daily basis, unless they've heard me talk about her, I didn't meet her, not living where we grew up. So sometimes it's nice when we go back home to visit or just have a conversation with someone who says her name, who remembered who she was, who talks about memories of her. I think that's really important. So that's what I try to say to my kids, but it's really nice when we can hear it as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I share the experience of it where I live. I don't have family in town. And, the friends that have become family often are in that similar situation where they don't have a lot of support local. And I found that those relationships that I have experienced, like my friend other women friends who have lost their mom. There's just something about our connection now where, you can talk about the grief if you need to, but you also don't have to. And you know that they carry it with you. And so I found that that's been one of the most helpful things for me, is just to lean into those connections of other women who've experienced mother loss. And like you said, there's various ways, and there's various types of presence. And sometimes it's physical presence that you miss, sometimes it's emotional presence that you're missing, and or the sage advice, or there's lots of layers to the way that that you feel absence. And so it's good in those moments that you're experiencing absence to avoid loneliness by connecting to other women. It's been so helpful for me.
Yeah, that's so important, that sense of community. And, I've heard it said and thought about it, and that, like, I'm not going to find someone who's going to replace my mother, but there are different connections where you can find different things. Maybe somebody who you can bounce off things. My older sister is one who I can talk to, as she's further down the motherhood journey than I am. So it's somebody that I could talk to about questions, or especially things with school, things like that. Someone else that could be encouraging to me, or a mentor. You can find those things, those voids and those things that you're missing from different relationships. It doesn't have to be that it's one person that's able to provide those in the way that maybe you would like to have from your mother, but you can find different ways to build that community with friends, with chosen family that you've found in your area. And just being able to connect with others who've had that experience is so important. And I know that's not always something that you can necessarily have in your friend group, especially if you're one of the first ones who has lost a mom. So that's why, that's what our ministry is all about, is finding that sisterhood, finding that community with others, because I have people in my life that can be very empathetic about it, or remember when it's the anniversary, things like that, but they don't necessarily fully understand. We all have such different journeys. And so being able to connect with others that you're like, oh yeah, I'm thinking these same things, I am having these same unique challenges, is really important and helpful.
And that's why I'm really glad that we're doing what we're doing together next month. And do you want to tell people more about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, our ministry offers a lot of different things, from podcasts and blogs to courses, like 6-week online courses you can take. Natalie mentioned an in-person retreat we do every year, but one of the newer things that we have are called connection and conversation circle groups. And we have ones for various different types of mother loss. But we are starting on 2 weeks from today, so October the 5th, on Sundays at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to be having this group. And it's just a way to be able, like we said, connect with other women who are navigating mothering without a mother. And we may have very different experiences or very different circumstances that led us to that point. But I think you will find that there's so much connection and community and similarities in our stories. So the way it works is it's just a group of people. Natalie and I will be there facilitating, but we're really there to all talk and learn from each other. And each session has a different theme about mothering without a mother. And throughout the evening, there are several questions. We spend time in breakout rooms where we're one-on-one, or just a few people in a group discussing a question. And then we come back as a large group to talk about that. And I've been a part of some of the other ones, and there's just always such rich conversation and people that realize, wow, I'm not the only one who feels this certain way, or I'm not the only one that's dealing with this certain issue. So it's great to be able to kind of bounce ideas, talk about experiences, and just, like we keep saying, build that community, because it really is that important.
Yeah. And I'll just add that, we're moms, so there could be kid interruptions during it. I put my girls on devices. There's laundry on my dining room table behind me, dishes in the sink. And, we're just going to be real and in it together. Yes. And it's hard to carve the time, and we're hoping by doing the Sunday evening, it's a little bit easier, but we understand that we're just going to be doing this mothering thing together. And so if you don't have a locked office or just the perfect setup for Zoom calls, that's okay. You're worth it. And we'd love to have you there.
Yes, such a great point. I think we've probably all had a moment where one of our kids came in on a Zoom call, and that's totally okay. So yes, just come as you are. It doesn't have to be, there's nothing that you need just to be able, we've had people call on their phones in their car, parked somewhere, just because that's what works. And that's what works with their schedule. So yeah, we tried to hopefully pick a time. For some, that would maybe be a little better, but we understand motherhood is busy and there's a lot going on, but it's always great just to be able to find those times, even if you can only come for 1 or 2 of the weeks, just be able to carve out some time to help yourself, because when we're nourished and we are in community and feel encouraged, that only helps us in our other relationships, especially in mothering with kids, because it can be exhausting and overwhelming at times. So I feel like whenever we can find opportunities to, focus on our own care, it's so important as well.
Well, Sarah, thanks for all that you do. You're the kind of leader that does this leading stuff out front like this, but also you're such a backbone behind the scenes, just an anchor for the ministry. And you've been such a big part of welcoming me into it. And I'm just so grateful for you and feel honored to be connected to the ministry. And, even if this isn't necessarily for you, I would encourage you to consider supporting the ministry because of the lives that can be touched through it. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, feel free to reach out to the ministry, check the link in the comments, and we would love to help along your journey and just continue to find ways to connect you with community. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much to Natalie. We appreciate your perspective and so happy that you're going to be joining with this group.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you are in need of more nurturing words and voices of experience, we encourage you to listen to our other episodes, hit subscribe, and come check out our Motherless Daughter resources on our website at motherlessdaughtersministry.com. You can also find us on our YouTube channel and in our Facebook community, Motherless Daughters Ministry. We hope you'll come visit us, and we look forward to you joining us again next time. Until then, stay well.
Free audio post-production by outphonic.com.